Thank you for joining us. Today we are going to have Suzanne Scott, who is our elementary representative, and Christina Jensen, who is our middle school representative, lead us through the agenda. So I am going to turn the meeting over to them. Thank you.
All right, good morning. So Christina can't actually be here, but she helped me put the agenda together. So I get to help you direct our conversation today. So we just got to put some things on the agenda to kind of talk about. And of course, we always want to save some time if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, celebrations, whatever you may want to talk about too. So, oh dear, I pulled up the wrong agenda. That's not the right one. Let's hang on a sec. Should have just printed it. Okay, here we go. All right, so we included on the agenda, again, as usual, a few different things coming up for ASCA. There's a special event on the 14th, a couple of pop-up webinars and some other resources on there for you. And then something that I have been kind of doing in our district, at least all the we call them the mental health team, the school counselors and school psychologists and all, have been also trying to help focus on how are we supporting our staff during this time. And I don't remember if we've ever really had a chance to talk about that. I know we talk a lot about what we can do for the kids and especially high school kids during this time, and how do you reach elementary kids, on Zoom and things. But we've also talked about how are we checking in on our staff and making sure that our staff are doing okay during this time, especially when we don't get to lay eyes on them in the building all the time. I know for me, I found myself a couple of weeks ago, like that's the oddest feeling is I realize I usually walk through the building to go pick up the kid or something and would happen to see a staff member, say hi, check in on them, see how they're doing. And now I don't get to do that anymore. And so one of the ways that we've been doing that is, and I think some of us have mentioned before that maybe we've sent out some resources or resource lists for the staff members too about ways to take care of themselves and ways to use some of the, I don't like the word self-care because to me that feels like another thing to check off your list, but I like the word self-compassion. How are we being compassionate to ourselves during this time? And then we also, each counselor in each building is responsible for checking in on our staff at least a couple of times over these past few weeks. And so I emailed them all, like every single staff person in my building a couple of weeks ago, which yes, took a little bit of time, but it was really exciting to hear back from them too, and to be able to check in on them. And some of them were pretty honest and vulnerable about how they're truly doing. And then this week I started trying to pop in on their office hours on Zoom to see them face to face. So that's a couple of things we're doing. So we were just kind of curious if there's anything else that you all out there have maybe been asked to do or thought of yourself to do to check on your teachers and your other staff members or principals, to just see how they're doing and how they're holding up during this time.
We have PLCs for every grade level, so I'm involved to keep contact with them. And then I'll ask can I talk to you just one-on-one after we get done, or kind of thing. Or the principal has emailed me with a couple situations. We've had some a parent pass away of one of our staff, and we have a staff member that has a husband that has got MS and been diagnosed with liver cancer, and they just sent him home. So he's too far gone. So I've been special attention and go over and say, can I talk to you? Social distancing, that kind of thing. Make sure that we're keeping check with them.
Good, thanks, Lisa.
Suzanne, same thing here. We do PLCs every day. So we get to, we're small, so we can do that. And then I get to check in with the elementary weekly. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. I feel like our PLC time is still directed to the teachers. It always was, even when we were face to face. It was kind of the teacher's time to talk about what they needed to. So I haven't thought about at least asking if I could pop in for the first few minutes, which might work maybe next week, because I found the office hours don't always work because maybe they're not on there, or maybe the link wasn't right, or their password's set, or whatever. So that might be a good idea.
Well, our PLCs have come lighthearted. They get done with business and then it's fun to talk about whatever's going on. So just, and then we had a full faculty meeting yesterday, and we started off with, believe it or not, I'm a PE teacher, I'll have been for years too. So it's called chair dancing. So we started off with, I got a feeling, and I said, everybody back away from the table, it's time to dance. So we started off that way just to lighten things up, remind them that we're all here. And we talked about what's one thing we've learned from this experience as far as teaching, and then what's overall, how are you feeling with that, and some ahas that you've had. So it got, more personal, and it was pretty interesting. The people were very open and took turns.
That's great. Sounds fun. It's good that they can still be lighthearted with all this going on. Because I don't know, I feel like the longer we keep doing what we're doing, I feel like some folks are starting to drag a little bit, and it's getting, it gets kind of wears on you, and gets frustrating to be stuck in your office all day or stuck on the computer all day and not see people, and it can get kind of tough. So.
This is Corey Black and Cody, and we actually had a social committee in our school before the building was closed, but we're continuing to do the social things. So we're sending out cards for birthdays, flowers we did for administrative assistant. We sent those to secretaries. We have a virtual shower that we're planning for one of our young teachers. We also had a staff member lose a parent. So we're just trying to do all the things we normally would do, and just in more creative ways.
Yeah. It's very true. We have to just kind of take what we were doing and try to figure out how to keep doing it a little bit differently. But we have a handful, a few 3 or 4 staff members who are having babies this summer. So they've got their virtual baby showers going.
We've also got teachers retiring, so we've kind of tried to make that as special as we could, and honor them, as well as some aides that have received their teaching certificate and are going on to teaching positions. So trying to keep in touch with all of that's been a chore.
Virtual birthday cards. Yeah, I know for the Administrative Professionals Day, our secretary's got a lot of email, like pictures of flowers and stuff. So.
We did a combined one on Google where everybody could go in and sign and make a statement, so they didn't have this swarm of things. Because and we did a parade for one of our secretaries. There were 111 cars and the fire trucks and the whole business. She's going in for her last round of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we've just tried to come up with ideas. So if anybody has other ideas, that'd be great to hear.
Oh, I didn't know today was National School Principals Day. Cool. Awesome.
Next week's Teacher Appreciation Week.
Oh, that's right.
Our principal put an account in at taco time, so everybody can go down and have an $8 meal drive through. And our PTO has also done the same thing at another place in town called Get Real. So.
I wonder if that's our principal was talking about doing. I know there's been a lot of teacher parades and stuff like that, but we haven't done one yet for the elementary school. We kind of did the Friday Night Lights thing like we talked about a week or 2 ago for the high school, for the seniors and sports kids that weren't getting to play and stuff. But maybe that's why she was intending to do our little teacher parade thing next week during Teacher Appreciation Week. But I think she's going to have us. I can't remember why the difference, but there's something about us being elementary and, all the parents having access to see us and stuff, that we're actually going to like bring our lawn chair out to the sidewalk, and the K1 building's just right down here, just down the street, a couple of blocks. And we're all going to spread out on the sidewalk in our little lawn chairs, 6 feet apart. And then everybody else can drive by and we'll wave and holler and kind of do a reverse parade in a way, I guess. So that should be kind of fun.
That's kind of what we're going to do for end of the year, to say, have a great summer, whatever it is. And all of the teachers will line the street in front of our elementary school in their cars, and everybody can drive by there. What we're talking about coordinating with other schools, because we have a middle school that's close by too. And then also kindergarten graduation has been the other thing that they've been working on, which is kind of interesting, and talking about the drive-by and whatever they can do for celebration there.
Yeah. Good. Sounds like well, at least it's on people's radar. I totally forgot about Teacher Appreciation Week next week, but something else I realized a few days ago, if you guys were at the WYSCA WAO conference, you may have heard the presentation on the Bionic Club. And so our school has the Bionic Club here in Wyoming. And back in March, early March, before we closed, I didn't realize, I was just like, I don't know what else to do. We always do little crafty things, activities, whatever. We only have like 15 minutes, a couple mornings a week. And so I found this idea to make these little like paper plate Mayday baskets, and we started on them in March. And now I'm like, how ironic that we already made some Mayday baskets. So I don't know if you guys can see this one, but we made little Happy Mayday baskets out of paper plates, and then we attach our little Bionic logo, and it says, "Believe it or not, I care," spreading a little sunshine to your day. So I thought, how cool that we still have those in today's May Day. So when I go out with my other counselor to deliver some Mustang backpack food and things, then I'm going to try to stop by some different businesses and whatnot and deliver a little May Day basket today. But I was like, that's crazy that we already did those. And because I've been missing that club and being able to do things, because we usually do things for staff or the teachers or other kids in the building that maybe, were in the hospital or something. And so we're always doing something for other people. And I know they've been kind of missing that. So it'll be fun to post it on our website to say, look, our project that we did, we still get to deliver that to some different folks and stuff. So that'll be awesome. All right, anything else about that? Things we're doing for staff, teachers. Even in my district, a couple weeks ago when we had kind of another crisis issue in our district, I saw the superintendent and I just thought, besides all this COVID stuff, it's just been kind of a rough year for our district. And I just feel for him and everything, our superintendents are having to go through too with trying to run our districts and all this virtual world and stuff too. And so thinking about them too, and just sending them a card or something to show them that you're supporting and thinking of them, just even let them know that they're being thought of during all this time too is helpful, I think. All right, another question Christina was said, I think that came up in our survey was somebody was curious if anybody is doing any trauma in the classroom training for staff, or if not right now during this time, if that's something that they've done in the past or something they're thinking about doing in the future, especially as these kids return back to our schools after everything that people have been through and gone through, whether that's on anybody's radar or not to do some trauma in the classroom training.
This is Sherry and Casper, and my school, we did. 4 of us went down to Denver for the Trauma Informed Schools Conference. And so then when we came back during one of our staff meetings, we did a share out and training.
When did you say you did that, Sherry?
The Trauma Informed School Conference was in November, and then I think the staff training that we did was February.
Is that something that can be reiterated or built upon in the future, thinking about kind of our situation now and everything?
I would think so. And we tried to, because our school, like every school, has got so much going on that really we tried to small dose it rather than it being a full training, because that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So I think the principal has in mind of just continuing to offer more information and input and revisit it pretty frequently to keep it at the forefront of everyone's minds.
Has anybody else done any of that before, or something that you even think about maybe looking into to do in the future? I know we haven't ever done anything like that in our district, but
I know that our superintendent has started talking about the plan for how to start up school next year. And I've already talked to him about keeping in mind that these kids have been out of school for 6 months and they're afraid, all the things that have been going on, depending on the level of fear with parents, that we need to be starting school out differently. I've talked with my teachers about my being in the classrooms with doing some different activities. So that's as far as we've really gotten.
I think that unknown still of even what is August going to look like, it's kind of is hard to even think about planning for coming back in the fall. But yeah, things may need to be a little bit different to get us started back. All right. Anything else on that? All right, let's see. So I know we've talked a lot about transitions and high school and kind of who's doing what for graduation. As something I don't know if we touched on much last time or when we were talking about that, or just like Lisa was saying about kindergarten, if you have traditionally kindergarten graduations or things, but thinking about transitions to the other grade levels, whether it's 5th grade to 6th grade. I think I've mentioned before about what we're planning to do with that, with having the middle school principal and counselors make some videos to post for the 5th graders about the tour of the middle school and the expectations of the middle school and all, or if there's things you've done in the past for 9th grade or 8th grade going to 9th grade into high school. If there's transitions that you guys typically do that you've had to tweak and want to share about kind of what those are looking like now. And I was thinking, today's May. We in our district have 3 weeks left. School's out in 3 weeks. And even that, like Lisa talking about coming back in the fall, to me, ending the year even feels really weird. Like, how do you end the year now? Because we're, typically in elementary, we're doing field day that last week of school and talent show and the awards when their parents come and things, and kind of a classroom cleanup party and whatever else is going on. And I asked our principal and I said, what is our last week gonna look like? Like, are we just gonna keep working and keep doing, the teachers keep teaching their lessons all the way until the last day of school? Like, that just doesn't feel right. Like, I feel like there needs to at least be like the dance party on Zoom or something for that last week. So not even just transition, any other conversation we need to have about transitioning and things you guys are doing, but ending the year, like thinking about as counselors, how do I terminate with my 5th graders before they go to middle school, and thinking about popping into their Zoom classes and stuff and telling them bye and have a good summer and things like that. So, and then just wanted to open that up if you guys wanted to talk any more about transitioning or how you're ending the year. Are you doing anything special via Zoom, or maybe it's the parades or things outside that we can try to do too?
We usually have an 8th grade recognition night that we can't have. And so we've just kind of adjusted ours to a virtual Facebook hosted. Our school has a Facebook page. And so we just invited 8th graders to submit a picture of themselves and then ask them 4 questions around like who's their favorite teacher, or what's their best experience at Centennial, and what are their, which high school are they going to, and what are their future plans. And then put those up on our Facebook page for people to comment on and wish them well.
Okay. Cool. That sounds kind of similar to what we were talking about before. I think about the adopted senior. I stole that idea from whoever talked about it a couple of weeks ago and told our high school counselor about that adopted senior thing too, and we were able to do that. So that's been fun. So virtual field day. Wendy, you'll have to let us know how that works. That's awesome.
Our principal just showed us on Google, it's called Google Expedition. And there's all kinds of virtual field trips in there. It was amazing. That would be fun for kids or adults.
Yeah, I know when all this kind of started, there were lots of museums and things and places that put out those free virtual trips and stuff. So maybe that's an idea too at the end of the year to take a virtual field trip. Lois, what is your virtual move up day going to look like? Do you guys know yet?
I'm here. Sorry, have a phone ringing.
Sorry.
Nobody calls until I get on the computer. It's just that's what we're going to meet Monday with the elementary on their PLC and figure it out. But the one we always do, the big one, was our 6th graders move up to 7th grade, and they're all in the same building, but they love that day. So we're trying to come up with some ideas where maybe our teachers can pop in during the 5th, 6th grade classroom and talk a little bit about what they expect in science and math and what. Not quite the same, but the kids don't need a virtual tour because they already know what our building looks like. So, but yeah, we're working on it.
That makes me think that, like I was saying, in our elementary school, K1 is in a different building. And so usually they get to come up and tour our big building because we're a lot bigger than that one. So maybe I need to make a little video for those 1st graders with that counselor down there. Her and I maybe can walk around and do a little video to show them too, because they won't get to come up and tour that. And I know we usually do a kindergarten roundup night for all the preschoolers that would be coming in, and I don't even know exactly what all they do during that night because I'm not usually part of that since we have a counselor down there. But yeah, I don't know what that's going to look like. I know we're trying to move all of our paper registration to online with Infinite Campus and just having parents register online through Infinite Campus now. But I honestly don't even know if a kindergarten roundup, if they did some like entrance testing for the kiddos or anything, those screeners and things like that. So, you know, like we were talking about coming back in the fall, whereas kindergarten usually comes like, half of them come a half day, one day, or one day, whatever, and then the other half come and then they all transition in together. That may look very different for kindergarten if they don't get the kindergarten roundup day and things. So. All right. Something else I think Christine and I were talking about with transitioning and things. I don't, this doesn't usually happen even when we're in person, but just because of the nature of how things are going right now, I thought about, I have a couple of 5th graders that I see for counseling with their IEP. And I thought about including that middle school counselor in the Zoom in one of our last Zoom meetings to introduce them to kind of do that handoff to the next counselor. With a few of them, kind of the kiddos that might need that, like personal introduction, get to know them a little bit before the next school year. And so that's something I thought, well, that's easy enough. Just say, here's the day we're meeting, come join me in Zoom. And they could join us for something like that. So I was thinking that might help with some of that transition too. Christina had mentioned that they typically do this anyway, so that they're going to continue sending postcards to like her small groups, the students that were in her small groups at the end of the year. She'll send a postcard home just to kind of wrap that up and give them some encouraging words for the summertime and things like that. All right. Any other transition conversation, end of the year? Questions? Everybody's probably starting to finalize some graduation plans. I know my husband actually is the graduation coach at the high school here, and he was nominated to be the guest speaker for graduation. So he was super proud and excited about that. And he wrote up his little speech and had to go record it the other day, which is really sad. But so there, I'm not exactly sure what, I thought they were just going to have them actually like speaking it on the radio. As our kids did like the direct by graduation thing, and they would announce it on the radio, but I think they're actually putting all the speeches and information and like the awards night program and stuff on thumb drives to give to the students. I think that sounds like what we're going to do, because he said something about a thumb drive and recording it. So all right, don't let me move too fast. If you have anything to say, holler. Christina was asking about anybody who's been making videos for their students and if you've kind of gotten a response back from that. I know we've talked before about making little class lesson videos to share out and things, and I'm teaching an online master's class right now, and it's asynchronous, and so you put something out there and you never know if anybody hears it or sees it or watches it. You just hope that they're you hope they're doing what you want them to do with that. So I'm curious if anybody's been doing any kind of like video class lessons and gotten any feedback from that, or even on YouTube. I noticed you can see how many views your videos had. Ours haven't had very many, but
Suzanne, this is Stacy Polson over in Lander. I'm Christina's co-counselor.
oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry Christina couldn't be here today. She had a little personal emergency going on. She and I have been making a video every week since we've been in this, and we've gotten amazing feedback on that. We email it out to all of our kids, but we also put it on our Twitter and our Facebook page. And I think one of ours is over 1,000 hits within 2 days, and we only have 450 kids, so it's not our kids. But we have tried to do something a little bit creative or fun, and then have just a little bit of a counseling aspect to it. And I can share the links to those videos if anybody wants to see them. They're goofy, they're funny, but our kids are loving it. And after this week, I got a flood of emails when our this week's one went out yesterday. The kids are like, we're excited for it every week. We can't wait till you send this. Thank you for bringing us up. Thank you for trying to lift us up. And so it's been a really fun experience and a way for us to get just that little tiny bit of hey, here's some stuff that can help for anxiety or overwhelm or things like that, or for them just to see us being goofy. So it's been awesome.
Awesome. Maybe it's the goofy silliness that's getting a better response than KK's in mine.
I'll put the links over in the chat if anybody wants to click on in the
Christina put one in the agenda, I think, for you guys to kind of look at. And I'm curious now to see like kind of how that works and how you guys are doing that. So
awesome. I don't have the agenda up. If somebody can share the link for that, then I would put the other ones over in there.
And thanks, Stacy. Anybody else doing videos, getting any feedback? Can I change the way we do them now? I'm curious if how, like you said, Stacey, you put them out on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. Like, I'm curious if we put ours on our elementary Facebook page, if they would get more views, because then parents and community and stuff can see them too. Versus what we've been doing now is just emailing them to the teachers to put in their class canvas. And so just like everything else, like it's, they've got all their assignments, they got their Zoom links, they've got the counselor link still, and some maybe kids just aren't doing it because they're not doing their work either. So
I know that we send them directly to our kids through their email. I get lots of feedback from parents who've watched it through their kids. But I think the majority of it comes from our social media hits. And then our kids are telling me that they're sending it to friends in other places. And so I'm starting to see that they're just like going out viral like that. Like I said, viral for us, 1,000 hits is definitely like a big deal, but not as big as it. I mean, I'm kind of glad they aren't everywhere, but it's cool that we're getting a lot of good feedback on them.
It's awesome. You guys are going to be famous now.
Oh yeah, wait till you see the one where I got French fry in my hair and a waffle on my shirt. That's, I think, my favorite.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right.
Anything else on that? You guys are kind of quiet today. All right, well, I'll keep moving down the agenda, and then if there's anything else we need to talk about, I added on the agenda. Hopefully you guys all also got the email about the Wyoming Counseling Association is having a virtual PD day, which is on the 15th. That is something that anybody can sign up for and register for. If you are a WYSCA member, I think there's either a discount or it's free or something. I don't know exactly what she said about that. They've got some good speakers that day, it looks like, and something that they're trying out to see if this works. And then in the future, maybe they will also offer biannually virtual continuing education, because she knows Amanda J. Diego, that's part of the Wyoming Counseling Association, said that they're finding a lot of their counselors are having trouble now getting those continuing education credits because all the conferences are getting canceled and not all of them are turning them virtual. So they were going to offer at least that day of some continuing education. If you guys need any more of that, then you're welcome to check that out. So I wanted to make sure to offer that to you guys. And some information on our agenda about the Department of Family Resources hosting a bi-weekly call to discuss community actions and resources. I can't remember, did Christina put this on here? Somebody else added that.
No, it was me.
Oh, you, okay. You want to talk about that, Amy?
Not resources, it'd be helpful if I actually put Department of Family Services.
Okay.
So I got an email from DFS that they are doing bi-weekly call-in meetings and just offering resources and stuff for people. So I did include that information in there. They have a call-in option or a Google Meet option. So that's in the agenda for anyone who's interested in community actions and resources and connecting with children. So just wanted to get that out to you. And I don't know, Paul, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Could you just share a little bit about what you did yesterday, please, for those that maybe weren't able to join?
Sure. I was part of a panel, I guess you could call it, that was part of a webinar yesterday for the Department of Education here in Wyoming. One thing, the point of the webinar was to talk about how to support high school seniors in particular, but high school students at this time, and particularly for seniors, and how to transition into post-secondary options. And I was asked, there were several different panelists talking about all different facets and areas of it, but I was asked to speak more towards mental health resources and strategies. And I put together a listing of different resources, but also talked about, you know, even though we have all these resources and this is great, and we really need more things like what we're doing right now in finding ways to support each other and do that with our students, particularly those students who are graduating, and highlighting that, you know, in times like this is an ongoing crisis, and in some ways, like some of you have already mentioned, a time of trauma for a lot of our students. And so we have to be aware that they're going to be experiencing grief from this point and moving forward, and they may not even be aware that they're in that grief process. And so keeping that in mind, and I see some people shaking their heads because you all know this stuff, you know, as counselors, but not necessarily everybody recognizes it all the time, particularly some of our colleagues who maybe don't have the counseling experience that we have. And so I was trying to share some of that and share some of the resources, and also just point out, you know, as we're going through all this, we need to pay attention to some of the basics really, and keep in mind like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because all of us, and our students included, you know, we're on those lower rungs of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs pyramid. Yet when we're throwing all this information out there, you know, to really process that information and be able to take some of the steps and engage, for example, in the schoolwork and doing all these things, that's at the very top of the pyramid. And so we have to take steps to connect and to ensure, you know, physical and emotional safety first. And that's something that sometimes can get lost when we're so busy trying to do. We lose the sight of, hey, maybe we need to be with these students in different ways. And I'm very encouraged to hear all the different things that everybody's doing on that front as counselors, because I think that's very much needed right now. And so that's some of the things that I was sharing yesterday in this webinar. And I did create a list of links to resources to help further that. And I'm happy to share that out if people would like, because there's some things, I have a few things like from Asking things, but I have some other resources too that might be very beneficial if people would like.
Paul, if you want to send that to me, I can get it onto our resources page.
Sure, I can do that.
All right. Yeah, just send it to that A. Mason email that we've been using. Okay.
Okay, sounds great. Appreciate it.
I have a question about that. Was it recorded? The thing yesterday?
I am not sure. I hope it is, but I can't guarantee that. But I do have, like I said, I have what I presented, and they also, they were going to be sending out the slide share that includes all the different panelists, all the different information. And so if I get that, I can forward that on to Amy as well. But like I said, it was in conjunction with the governor's task force on COVID-19, and they have different I guess subcategories of that, and this was the one having to do with education for secondary students. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Suzanne, you're on mute. I can see
Sorry,
your
it
mouth
was a great
moving.
speech. You missed it. I was just saying, you think by now I know how to do that. No, thanks for that. I was just saying that I think a lot of times what you said, Paul, about doing, you know, we tend to do a lot. And I think maybe we do too much sometimes, that we're trying so hard to make sure we're meeting with kids and getting work out there and doing this and doing that and overloading our staff with resources and on and on. And sometimes we have to step back and think about that Maslow's hierarchy. And I even have a family today who I'm dropping off the textbooks and paper and pencil again because they're having a hard time, and stepping back and thinking that, okay, they're not joining Zoom and they're not turning in work, and we're like, but they need to attend, they need to do this, they need to do that. But mom's out of town and dad's wrangling these kids by himself, and, you know, stepping back and looking at what do they really need right now in this moment, and how can we support families that are going through tough times like that without pushing school down their throat all the time. And it is very different, and when they can't be in our building, we kind of have to change the way we do things. But
I have to share a quick little story. I teach a senior level class, and I had a young man yesterday that connected in class, but he had emailed earlier and said, I'm going to miss class. And I said, if you need to be there, if you can be, at least for about 10 minutes. So he connected up. He was on his phone pushing cows, riding his horse. And he said, I have connection right now. I need to hear what you have to say. So he did it. That was pretty cool.
A lot of kids are getting a lot more family time and a lot more work around the house and things that maybe they wouldn't normally get to do, which can be a good thing sometimes too, I think. But I think I had met with a second grader the other day, and she had a little sister on her lap, little 2-year-old sister on her lap, and just grinning ear to ear saying she's loving being home with her family. So, yeah. That is the end of our agenda already. What else do you guys have for today? A little bit of time left if anybody has any other thoughts, comments. Feeling burnt out yet? I feel like we talked about the other day in our school about the first few weeks, kids seemed really gung-ho, enjoying this, like, hey, look, I get to stay home and do school on the computer. And now they're like, oh my gosh, I have to do school on the computer again. And I think the novelty is wearing off already. So we're trying to keep them hanging on for the rest of the year and keep their motivation and interest going still. So that's been kind of tough for us lately.
It seems to me that we kind of need to start thinking how to plan even in the next month to help kids remember why they come to school, because I've watched that in the past with my previous work with mental health, where people find out they don't have to come to school and then everything changes. They can't quite commit to school as being something they have to do, especially one who her father was on intensive care for 3 months, and she found out she didn't have to be in school every day. And so she started playing with that. And I'm seeing that especially, I wrote earlier, with the kids that have some trauma in their background. But this is trauma for all of us, for every single one. And we're actually seeing an increase in PTSD related to it. So I think we've got to maybe plant some seeds now that hopefully would take root in the fall.
Good point. I don't know how that might look different for the different age levels and different levels of grades, but I know at least for my elementary kiddos, like, they miss seeing their friends so much that I hope they would at least come back for their friends. But yeah, we actually had one whose mom withdrew her to just homeschool her. She's like, why am I doing this when I could, just homeschool her and do our own thing too? So yeah, the parents and that see,
Yeah.
oh look, I only need an hour of school a day. Like, what?
Yeah, I actually have a client this last week whose parent said that exact same thing. I'm thinking about just going ahead and pulling my kid from school and homeschooling them now, with everything that's going on, and so that I can engage them and have them doing more than just an hour a day with their teachers and things like that. And I can understand where they're coming from, but it also I think they do need some other type of connection, with their friends and with with the school, because it's going to play out not just academically. You're going to start seeing, like what was said, this is an ongoing trauma event, I think, for our society. And so as school counselors, we need to be vigilant and aware of that. And like what's been said, finding ways to make those connections, because, neurobiologically, we know we got to address safety first, and then connection, and then only then can the higher executive functioning parts of the brain start to kick in. And we've been trying to go, instead of 1, 2, 3, many times 3, 2, 1. And so, for a lot of parents, a lot of teachers and things, that's what they've been trying to do. But we need to safety, connection, and then we can focus on some of those other things. And I'm not sure how that's going to look moving forward, but I think, if anything, as school counselors, I think we can step up and kind of lead in that way, in that direction. So, yeah.
Good points. Thank you. Anything else?
I think we have to think about the separation anxiety that all the kids are going to feel from coming into school and leaving family at home. I watched kindergartners come into school last year and thought, I don't know who's having a harder time, the parent or the kid. So I think that's going to happen for all grade levels instead of just kindergarten.
And I just think about the having to get up on time and get to school again too. I joked with a kid I had the other day and I said, so you're not late to school anymore, are you? Because her Zoom class is at 10. She gets to roll out of bed and go to class and she's like, well, it was the other day. And I'm like, it's at 10 o'clock now. Come on. She was late like all the time. And so I even just think about little things like that, about getting the kids up and out of bed again and to school, because it's, in a way, even though they're doing work now, it sort of does feel like an extended summer. Like we're getting ready to go into summer break soon, and then they have to turn around and hopefully actually be able to come back to school again. It's going to be weird, but lots of things to think about as we get ready for next year.
I don't know if I've been watching our local arrests and stuff, and there's an increase in domestic violence that's going up. So I think our kids are getting exposed to some of those things that are going to be rough. You can't get names, so I'm careful to watch what's happening.
Have you all, I guess a lot of you have probably seen this statistic, and it's not just here in Wyoming, but I have connections in other states that are seeing similar trends. But I want to say somewhere around the calls to DFS has dropped by about 50% in the last month than what they normally are at this time. And in some ways that's really concerning, because as well as I do that it's not that the cases of abuse and neglect have gone away, it's that we're not able to see it, and that's concerning.
That brings a whole new light too to the trauma that we've been talking about, that we don't see that now. We don't hear that now. We're not getting those reports from kids now. So when that just goes on and on and on for the next several months, and then they get to come back, what kind of things have they been through that we haven't heard about or seen because we haven't been able to lay eyes on those kiddos and been a resource for them to talk to. That's something else to think about. One more chance before we go. And we've got two more meetings for this school year, and we'll be talking about plans for continuing something like this, especially just kind of as we talked about and heard maybe the importance and the need to collaborate about how we transition back into school, and we're able to do that in the future. It might be really helpful for us to do together. So we'll be making plans for continuing to meet in the future, but we still meet next Friday and the Friday after that. So appreciate you guys being here again and joining us and sharing and collaborating and all that. So anything else, Amy?
I don't think so. Again, if you guys do have anything that you would like to see on the agenda, you can just email me at amasonfremont24.com, or I did take the K-12 graduation ceremony ideas from the chat. So if there's anything you want to add to the chat real quick, I'll add that onto ideas for upcoming meetings.
All right. Well, I guess with that, then we can get out early today. All right. Thanks everybody.
For all your hard work putting it together, Amy and Suzanne.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you.
Thank you.